Thank you so much, General Anil Verma. It's an absolute honor to be invited to this esteemed panel with the likes of Qureshi Saab and Prashant ji, whom all of us look forward to. So thank you so much for this. And I'd like to congratulate you for actually taking such a complex and a difficult topic, which doesn't really have a straight answer. And we require more of these discussions. First, I think I'll just make my opening remarks and then I'll try and answer those questions of the webinar to be specific. And then maybe we can open the floor to question and answers. First is, why do criminals enter politics? Criminals enter politics because our political system gives them ample opportunity to subvert the criminal justice system. We do not have independence of investigation. We know as soon as an accused jumps to a particular political party, we have the cases against them going slow. We have, in some cases, summaries being filed against them as though there is no case that is being made out by the prosecution itself. So all of this happens because this is a systemic problem, and this is a very deep problem. And when we speak about this issue, we shouldn't look at it in terms of a binary, whether it is just a criminal or a non-criminal, or for that matter, the way politics looks at it, are you with a political party or you are not with a political party? So let's look at politics and then come to the issue at hand. In Parliament, dissent is equal to defection. There is no place for nuance. As soon as there is a whip, and if somebody votes against the whip, the person is there is anti-defection proceedings which are initiated against that person. So when you have such an arrangement, you don't have politicians who are committed to party ideology. You have politicians who are committed to one particular person or the party without any commitment to a party, political ideology. And if you have such people coming into politics, then what can we really expect of them? Now, let me speak about this entire criminal and non-criminal debate. I think there has to be a distinction that is being made in terms of a person who is accused of a crime and a person who's actually undergoing a trial and a person who's actually convicted. Let me give an example. I was protesting in Mumbai against the arrest of my leader, Arvind Kejriwal, with what is clearly weaponization of the criminal justice system in terms of political vendetta. And we protested, we burnt an effigy of Prime Minister Modi. And just for that act of protest, I have a case of arson and rioting against me and my fellow colleagues. And it's very easy for the criminal elements to file a case against the non-criminal elements to make them look criminal. So the way I look at it is when we see the kind of discourse that we have in politics, I think people just don't have a choice. And the reason why people vote in a particular way is because we have the first past the post system. And in the first past the post system, nobody wants to vote in such a way that their vote is wasted. So irrespective of whatever choices are given to them, they just go with that because they don't want to vote for a candidate who is losing. Having said that, there is a lot of discussion about winnability. And while winnability is important, yes, as a political party, you are essentially pursuing power. What is really missing is this representability. Is this person good enough to actually represent me or represent my aspirations in Parliament or in the House or anywhere where the person is essentially elected? And the problem is far more complex, because even if you let's say disqualify a particular person, like in the case of Brij Bhushan, you actually had a proxy in case of his son, and this is a multiple-headed hydra which really needs reform. But of course, more than anything else is political pressure. So there was a discussion in where Mr. Gogoi prior to me said that there is public pressure. There is public pressure. It's not that there is no public pressure. There is enough and more public pressure. What is needed is for the culture to be set at the top. What is needed for political parties to actually give tickets to decent people. But of late, what we've been seeing is this extremely dangerous trend where, as Kavita ji rightly mentioned, that the criminal justice system is being weaponized specifically against the opposition. We see cases of vendetta. We see how it is only systematically that the opposition is targeted in state after state. It's part of the BJP's playbook. It is that Kichad uchalo aur uchalo kuch to chipkega. And it is that narrative management that, okay, there is a case which is basically against you, and hence you are as criminal as somebody who is convicted. So that distinction has to be made, and that distinction is extremely critical. Having said that, I will now go on to specific questions which were part of the webinar. First is, who will bell the cat, executive or the judiciary? It has to be the judiciary in this case, because the executive is just an extension of the legislature. There is no distinction between the executive and the legislature. It is sad, but it's true. You expect your elected representative to actually be the executive in your area. It's not that the elected representative just focuses on making laws. And obviously, we all know that most political parties asking them to do something like this is basically trying to get turkeys to vote for Christmas. So it has to be the judiciary, because the judiciary has taken the vow of upholding the constitution. Second, does it impact good governance? I think it certainly does impact good governance. When you basically have such criminal elements in office, all that they are interested in is not issues of public importance. It's not issues of governance. It's essentially self-serving. And of course, governance suffers. Governance as a good of public service delivery also suffers. Should there be a lifetime ban or disqualification? I think the very fact that somebody is penalized, and if a person is disqualified, I think a person should be disqualified for a particular period of time. And there can be consensus in the parties, right, with regards to whom should the tickets be given. But I think this lifetime ban is something which is without precedent anywhere in the world. And I think a disqualification, and as long as a person has served the sentence, especially in a reformative system like ours, we should go with disqualification. With regards to reforms, will reforms actually work? I think any reform is dependent on the weakest link in its reforms. If we actually look at the lower judiciary, it is an absolute shambles. As a practicing lawyer, I'd like to stick my neck out and say, and sadly say, that the pursuit of justice is a luxury in our country. And given the painstakingly slow process and the quality of justice that we have in the country, there is much more that needs to be done. Because right now what we are seeing is actually institutional erosion. Because let's say that if you actually had such a pronouncement from an institution which was absolutely beyond reproach, it would have been great. But with regards to what happened with Justice Verma and the notes and the cover-up and what is happening and what is not happening, has also resulted into a lot of erosion of institutional integrity. So having said that, I think there is a way forward, and the way forward has to be that political parties set this culture. And whoever has said that politics is the last resort of the scoundrel has done the greatest disservice to humanity. Politics is for the brightest. Politics is the most efficient tool to bring about social change. And having said that, it is about this new political culture where criminal elements are not supported. And I think young people in the country, who make up over 70% of our population and our electorate, at least for the next 20 years, will be fairly young. I think that group of constituency, that young people, will essentially put this pressure on the demand side, so that we actually don't need a supply of criminal politicians. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruben. Question for Mr. Ruben: what would the route look like for the judiciary to pass reform in the legislation? Who would enforce this? Would this process languish in the judiciary for years? This is from Mr. Srikanth Narayanan.
So, quickly, see, I think if the judiciary can just function on its, as far as the sanction strength is concerned, which Mr. Prashant Bhushan just alluded to, that in itself would make the criminal justice system much more faster, much more efficient. But having said that, as I said, that this is more of a political culture problem, and as we rightly discussed, this needs deeper electoral reforms, deeper political reforms, and deeper police reforms. So I think multiple things need to be done with regards to that. But more than anything else, it's about the political parties themselves essentially owning up.
Thank you, Ruben.